Hello friends, hello everyone. This is the great transformation. It's well underway as we speak. It's in progress. We're right in the middle of it, and I am showing you how this expresses in the stars, in the celestial geometry up in the heavens, how this reflects, because it's always, everything is mirrored, as you know. So that is the reason astrology works. It's a mirror. Not in the literal sense, but energetically. It's where the electromagnetic frequencies are assembled in a way that it's like a kaleidoscopic pattern is what then is fed into the three-dimensional material universe as a impulse, and out of that it manifests. It's as simple as that. So, yes, I'm super excited, as you see, as always, but more so. It's really happening. I mean, I had a great opportunity to be in the center line of the eclipse of April the 8th. I was right at the seashore where the energy came in from the ocean, where the shadow first touched the North American continent. I was exactly at that spot, so I really was very offered that opportunity by existence. Naturally, it all fell in place, and I found that was a great honor. I received the shadow. I did my little ceremonies. Actually, it was 2 days in advance. I was at the exact spot. You can go back to that little recording I made, which just gives you the facts, and also the great video I took with my little Canon of the dawn colors 360 days around, degrees around. Unbelievable experience within the complete darkness of the bright solar disk, and yet it's still it's an eerie energy. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. This was the real breakthrough, as we all knew. We were all awaiting that, and then it took a little while longer, and it was not until Mars, and actually Venus first on the 29th of April, Mars following just 1 day after, on the 30th of April, moved in their own signs, into their own signs. Venus entered Taurus, as you see here. This is Venus by the time Mars had entered, pulled even. Venus was already in the 2nd degree of Taurus. However, this is a wonderful combination of energies, extremely auspicious, extremely creative. Mars and Venus are in their best places possible in the zodiac. That's basically what it boils down to. Mars and Venus are the neighbors of Earth. They're responsible for the biological systems to be in balance. The two genders, it's obvious. I mean, yeah. Okay, we don't go into this subject, but just saying these are the creative forces, the forming energies, the most close to the physical expressions. It's kind of, it comes down, kind of transforms itself down to a much more tangible and in that sense an energy which is easy to work with. So Mars, naturally in Aries, is dominion, leadership, pioneer, go into new land, be in the driver's seat, have the courage. It's really the sacred masculine in its purest. And it just came out of a conjunction with Neptune, which was super auspicious. Neptune as being the planet of highest degrees these days. Right at the end, in the last degree of the zodiac, actually since just a day or so, it really is exactly in that last degree. And this chart, we get to that as we go to the charts in a minute. But I really wanted to get you started here. So this was April the 30th. Mars, as you can see here, entered Aries at 3:33 in the afternoon, if we rounded to full minutes, 3:33, nevertheless 3:33. I mean, the universe is amazing. It really shows off on every fractal level. You can go into the seconds, the minutes, whatnot, the days, the years. It's all different fractals. That's really showing itself very nicely too in astrology. So let me stay focused here. 3:33 in the afternoon, Mars entered, that is just around here, this first bigger spike about, I'm guessing you see here noon and then midnight. So yes, that would be somewhere here. And then just short after we had that first X flare in a while, and as you probably know from my earlier recordings, we see a pattern this year, pretty much since December the 30th. Each time we had a X flare, it was linked kind of to a very important astrological event, change in energy, which was already known to astrologers. This would be a big marker energetically, setting a stake into ground, and in that sense also becoming a kind of a push-off point for something new to come in. That's basically what these markers are in time. So that was Mars in Aries, received by an X-flare, and now on May the 2nd, here in the afternoon, Pluto turned around. Pluto had been moving forward since October last year. In that sense, it's that transformational force on the outside, extrovert going forward out into the rippling out into the different directions, and that is the beauty actually when a planet then turns retrograde. It kind of is like the tides is now going the other way. It is then shifting. Whatever has been moving outward is now coming in again, and it is an inner transformation. That is pretty much the simple truth. And naturally we go through these cycles all the time, but this time with this Pluto cycle, it's super special, I tell ya, for so many additional reasons. This is just again one little facet overall, but it makes lots of sense. So Pluto moving inward, what does that mean? In Aquarius, it's actually in the 3rd degree of Aquarius already, in a very powerful place. 2 degrees fixed signs, in that sense 2 degrees Aquarius is the cutoff point for a whole new segment in the zodiac, which is ruled by hexagram 41, which is decrease, which is a really interesting one. It is the understanding that if we lower ourselves, we are ready to receive more. It's really like the river is at the lowest place in the valley. That's where the water gathers. That's where the energy comes, assembles, and where then the motion is generated. It's when the river is a really great example of that. So it is a position Pluto is in, which is in deep surrender. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. You just are not shy of even being defeated in that sense. Defeat is a word which also comes in that context. However, again, defeat is usually, naturally it's a tough one for the ego mind, but in a bigger way it opens the door for something totally new. You have arrived at such a low point in a way that there's no other direction anymore than upward. That's kind of where we are. Yes, this is just the first step. Pluto has activated this new energy. It will be pretty much on for the next 2 years in a very general way, as Pluto then will, as it goes so slow, it's about 6 degrees of arc each hexagram. Anyway, just want to mention in this context, under the video, always in the description, there's lots of links. One of them goes to my site where I break it down for you, the zodiac in all these 64 different parts. This is based on the human design system, which was brought in by channeling in 1987. For those of you who are new to who are new to the whole thing. I'm not yet that good at talking very fast. I'm getting better at it though. Anyway, I mean, just even the geometry of this Mars enters Aries chart was phenomenal. This big grand trine of the moon with Pluto. The moon was just at 007 in Aquarius, nevertheless, really activating this Pluto, which is, as you see, at 206 at the time. It's a little small here. And then here we have Sedna, which I just made a longer video about, which is really opening a whole new chapter in humanity's evolution. The next 40 years or so, this is a super, super important shift of energy. Certainly every big shift is coming in at the very subtle level, and it will take time to really make roots and become fully visible. And then the ascendant here in the 1st degree of Libra, actually the 2nd degree to be exact, together with the equatorial ascendant, which is the ascendant exactly as measured on the equator, versus this one here is the one measured in Greenwich, UK, which happens to be on the 0 meridian, which is the main denominator here in this choice of place. The second is that Greenwich is exactly 1/7 of a circle above the equator, what's called a septile in astrology, which is opening the frequency of the number 7, which is all about the fractals and the unending chain of numbers, what mathematicians call irrational numbers. Nice name for that. There's no patterns in it. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. It's a random chain of numbers. At least that is the appearance. There is a method behind it. There is a reason behind it, but it is definitely more complex. Anyway, this is such a little side note again why I'm choosing Greenwich, for those of you who are new here or having questions. And always please leave comments underneath, and if you have questions, I try to answer it to the best of my knowledge. So Pluto and Sedna, these are really the two big crowbars which are shifting this reality around. And they're moving in a harmonious pattern. They both just entered air signs, which is all about communication and bringing us together, really bringing that meeting and merger which is necessary at this time in history for the survival of this planet, for the survival of this human race even. This is a super, super critical moment in evolution. It is really like that place where the water rushes over the cliff and falls over the edge in free fall for however far down that big waterfall to eventually land in a pool and recreate that river from scratch in a way. That's what's going on, and it's everything is super energized, and that's exactly what you see here. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Today, as I'm really charged, I feel it. There were 5 individual big solar flares within 24 hours Let me show you the other graph. I thought I had it open, but then I didn't, so let me just open it quickly for you. It shows it even better. Okay, here it is. Yeah, just leaving it on here. Yeah, here you see it. 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth and the fifth. They were all within not even 15 hours. And yes, Pluto now. Okay, I'm getting a bit getting back to the track. Sorry. Pluto changed direction here on the. Now I have to go back to the earlier screen. Here on the 2nd. May the 2nd midnight. Here about. So now this is the story, and actually I want to make a separate video on that. Maybe a short one if I get to it. Pluto is an interesting case. It's a double planet, really. This is Pluto, this is Charon or Charon. I guess Charon is the proper pronunciation. Charon is the ferryman who ferries the deceased over river Styx into Hades, into the underworld. And Pluto is the lord of the underworld who rules over those forces which have passed on, which have taken the big step to disappear from one dimension and re-enter another dimension. That's pretty much what the Plutonic energy does. And now Pluto and Charon, they work as a team. Because Pluto is only about double the size of its moon Charon. And they move around in space in such a way that their mutual gravitational center is between the two. I have a little video here I'm going to show you. This is what was recorded by the space probe in 2015, New Horizon. Let me just adjust it to the screen so you can see it. Okay. So here you have two little blobs. This is Pluto, and the other smaller blob is Charon. And you see how they move. Maybe it. Yeah. First, okay. Here they go. Naturally, this is sped up. They circle around each other once every 7 days. So this is just you get. Yeah, I forget the name. What it's called. Sometimes I'm losing my words. Anyway, I wanted to show this to you. This is what it is. They are really in a relationship. They work together as a team, as I say. So both have the equal say in a way. Even though Pluto is bigger, it's like the man might be double the size of the woman, but the real balance is in the midpoint of their positions. And I'm getting to a point here. I won't go the whole way. Maybe I get to it in astrology. Actually did it already for the last change of direction what Pluto and Charon had, which was on October 10, 2023. You can go back to that recording there. I show you how it worked out then. But the long and short, I want to say our observational skills are that great that we can see over that far distance when a planet is exactly coming to a standstill because of Earth's motion naturally. As you know, this is that the change of position the Earth has around the Sun, which really makes the planets move forward and backward. So it's really all about perception again. Anyway, but the long story short is we now have the sharp tools, observatories, which can detect when Pluto is coming to standstill and when Charon is coming to standstill, and these two are, depending on their naturally mutual arrangement as seen from Earth, can be up to 5 to 6 hours difference. Now this is big for those of you who are deeper into astrology, who know the power of exact chart for a planet's retrogradation, when it's kicking in or when it's moving back forward. These are very, very powerful moments, and if you boil it down to the second or the minute at least, then you get an exact ascendant, and you see how this energy will unfold, express itself over that time period for the planet now going backwards in this case, which will be into October 2024, so the next 5 months. And this is a super critical time in so many ways. I mean, these 5 huge solar flares within 15 hours just show it really how important cosmos thinks Pluto and Charon's voice and change of direction really are. This is probably a very clear sign. So now let me get to the astrology here. And I'm kind of rushing you a little bit through here this time. Again, you're most welcome to stop the video, take screenshots if you want to have a closer look at these charts. Each in itself is a universe naturally. So anyway, it all started, as I say, with Mars entering Aries on the 30th of April, and things really got into high gear. And the one planet I want to focus on here is actually I have to go to the heliocentric chart for that, because that's where the energy first changed, is Ceres. Ceres was perfectly aligned with the 4th house cusp, yes, a little bit before, but in a perfect square, even more perfect with the ascendant-descendant axis. So why do I point Ceres out? Well, Ceres has been coming to more attention in the last few months already. It's kind of a building up energy. Actually, all the 4 asteroids seem to come as super important needles on the scale, which pushed the balance into the direction we needed to go. So Ceres is the earth goddess naturally. She is the one which cares, which nourishes, which brings food, which makes things beautiful. It's unconditional love. That is kind of the energy frequency it emits. However, those of you who are parents, you do definitely know that unconditional love can be quite harsh at times, because you have to step in, you have to help that child to understand a certain fact, a certain boundary, to know the importance of something. Sometimes one has to be quite rude in a way, but naturally it comes from a good place, it comes from a place of deep care. That's always which matters, which changes everything, is the motivation behind the intention. And if the intention is right, then anything is the right thing, if it arises naturally out of your emotional, heart-centered approach to life. That bond of connection, what we feel, we have to help, we have to support, we have to be with it. Which brings me once more back to a thought I earlier wanted to share, and then it slipped my mind again, about the air signs, the 3 air signs being so pronounced. And this is definitely now come to a next level up, since Setna definitely is now in Gemini for the next 40 plus years. As I say, it won't go back into Taurus, which is really rare for such a slow planet to have only 2 ingresses. The last year it was for 6 weeks, and now it's for good for the next 40 years. So this is helping Pluto. Now, there in air signs, I already said that air is communication, the mixing of energies, and I keep repeating this story, but it really shows the power of the air element and how it works. It was short after the Fukushima atrocity, catastrophe, that naturally this was all over the news in all channels. This was the big thing of the day, measuring of radioactivity all over the planet in all different stations. Within days they were able to measure these particles everywhere on the planet. This really shook me deeply, that understanding, and maybe not for the reason it shook most people, because yes, it is something that can be very dangerous if we get too much of it, but I already by then had heard from stories from what happened 25 years actually earlier, which was in Chernobyl. I was in Switzerland at the time, so I was really up close to the event there, and it was definitely a terrible event. It shouldn't happen, but what I want to say is that it was after 20 years or so, in the early 2000s, scientists went back and did some inquiries and found that nature was thriving. There were more birds, more animals, everything was more lush, green, because naturally, for one reason, nobody was there, had been evacuated from that zone. And but yes, it was not fully contained. They put that sarcophage around it, which was really smart to do at the time, to prevent from the radioactive substances which could not be retrieved, just to prevent them from seeping out and getting mixed into the water circuit and such, to really seal it off, which was a great thing. Anyway, the long story short, within days they could measure the radioactive pollution, you could call it, the particles everywhere. So yes, this was a kind of several reactors all steaming up into the atmosphere, big amounts of you could say steam, mostly naturally, and particles, dust. But it's just a magnitude bigger than you are. You are such a reactor too. You are breathing out all the time too. You are exhaling. You are sending your charged particles, which are all in quantum entanglement with your energy. So you are eternally connected to each atom you take into your body, each piece of food, each molecule is also the water you drink, and which you leaves through your body again on the other side, is carrying your frequency. This is what the magic is behind that. Everything is constantly intermixing with each other. We are living in a pool of frequencies, multidimensionality. All of that is what is just about opening its gates fully to us. This is what these air signs bring. Early Libra, yes, this is a powerful area of the zodiac. Hexagram 46 is ruling there. 46 is the rising up of the shoot through the ground and to reach out for the sunlight. It is the sprout which has that enormous internal force which can break through concrete. This is the energy we are having there at the ascendant. So this really was the start of a new time. Venus and Mars in synchronicity moving into Aries and Taurus. And then, yes, now I leave. Okay, again, there's so many things I want to share with you. It's just... Anyway, let's go back to Ceres. Ceres is the Earth goddess. Okay, the Earth goddess is super magnified, as we will see through the next few months. First of all, if we look at the geocentric chart, it is that perfect trine here with Uranus mostly. And it just actually, Ceres from Earth's point of view is just about coming to a halt at 21 degrees something, and then moving backwards because of you see the sun, that means Earth is coming in between, so that is Earth coming in between. So that means from our point of view, Ceres is moving slower than we. It's like you're taking another car over on the other side of on the other lane. That's how it is, and then Ceres appears to move backwards. But what I want to say is that there's this trine which is on for weeks on end still, and then there is the black moon here in the middle, and there is Saturn and Neptune here on the other side in between. If you take the midpoint between Saturn and Neptune, it's 22 degrees, so it is Neptune and Saturn in Pisces. This is one of the core themes, and as Mars now has joined, this is the core theme of demontage, of breaking the energies down which are inhibiting the real growth. Neptune is the solution, the dissolver. The dissolver, I guess, is the easiest way of saying, and shifting these more dense and heavy energies of Mars and Saturn, kind of liquefying them and reforming them from inside out, something like that. So there's a huge transformation going on many levels. This is maybe the more physical level. It's interesting that the moon just had occultations, means as seen from Earth, all these three planets disappeared behind the moon for a short while, for an hour or so, at least from a particular area. May 3, May 4, May 5. So we are just coming out of a Mars occultation, actually, as we speak, and we get to this chart too, and we'll browse through it. So anyway, I guess I made my point. Ceres is the one to look for now. When we had the first big solar flare, heliocentric Ceres was here at the helm of the chart. I'm really rushing you through these charts quickly here, and then here this is now Pluto station. Now I broke it down, so this is the next four charts are all about Pluto station, so bear with me. This is Pluto, the planet, as seen from Earth, moving backward. The observed time was 5:09, or the calculated time. They're so good in forecasting these things because they know so exactly well the orbital equations of all these planets. That is what the astronomers are really having to be given huge credit. And on that note, I want to pass on the credits to my friend Ron Scott and his partner Mariana Getova, I hope I say it right, who have provided me with the exact data for these Pluto stations, and this is therefore when Pluto changed direction 5:09 p.m. on the 2nd, and so always universal time. Then the midpoint, well, let's first go straight. Okay, Pluto changed directions at 5:09 p.m. and Charon will change direction 4 hours later, 4 hours and something. You see, that's what it is. That is depending on the mutual arrangements. Now, there's naturally different ways we can look at that. We can see Pluto as being the main part of the equation, so to say, the stronger, the bigger guy. We can focus on him, which is this chart, 5:09 p.m., or we can look at the other part of the relationship, Charon, which in that sense is the balancing principle of the two. Literally, I'm having that impression. It's the feminine part, and Pluto is the masculine part. Forgive me if that doesn't make sense to you, but the moon usually has something more of a feminine nature as such, as it is the opposite pole, bringing it down to earth, grounding an energy. Now, there's two ways to go here with taking them into one shared experience, how they arrange themselves, where they find the middle ground, kind of. And naturally, the most obvious physical way to do that is to locate on the body center, the gravitational center point, where Pluto and Charon are moving around. So Pluto just makes little motions around it, but Charon much bigger, as we have seen in that little video, where they kind of swing around each other. So you can take the body center, which makes sense. However, that is where my thought comes in. They are equal in their voice. That's why we have to take the time-space midpoint of the two. And actually, I got the confirmation right away from the cosmos. You see, this is what the chart looks like, which is then 7:17. That's the midpoint between 5:09 and whatever 9 something. The moon actually moved from Aquarius into Pisces over that stretched out event, if you want. You see, Pluto started the internal motion at 5:09 when the moon was still in Aquarius, 28:59, void, of course. Interesting. Void, of course, always means it's a kind of a wild card energy. You don't know where it's going. It does not know where it's going. It's kind of running into the fog and having the confidence that somewhere you will land. And then at the body center's moment, coming to a standstill, the moon at 29:21 still in Aquarius. However, just want to show you this quickly. This is how all these moments fit in with each other. You see here we had the 27th degree cardinal from Cancer to Capricorn as a major axis, and Pluto started the motion. When we are at the body center, we have that same degree, and the crossing points to the other cardinal cross. It's a big cardinal cross together, so they form this is what gives the whole thing a stability. It's really a four-dimensional event, if you want. It's four different time points which are in a certain arrangement with each other. Again, you're welcome to stop and take screenshots. And now, as we're on the time-space midpoint, the moon has moved over into Pisces. Why is this so important? That's a whole new energy which is coming in here. In the I Ching again, this is hexagram 55. Fullness, one of the most spiritual manifestations of energies on this planet. It is when everything comes to an abundance, to fullness, when there's this deep thankfulness arising, because this is the sun at midday. Everything is seen through that lens. That's what it is really. It is not that the experience per se is that way, but it is the readiness to see that everything comes as a gift. This is a very, very powerful and beautiful degree. Now you see the zenith, and the IC, the fourth house cusp in this chart, is where the moon was a few hours before, when Pluto stationed. So again, you see the intrinsic connection. It's on so many levels. It's really fascinating, the whole thing. And then, if we move to the last leg of the equation, Charon, the feminine part, also changing direction as seen from Earth. We have Mars and Neptune here right at the base of the chart in Aries now. That energy of activation, of lots of fire in this chart with the Sag rising, and it's all about understanding the fractal principles of what is occurring. Pallas, I love Pallas. Pallas is again one of the four main asteroids, and it is kind of the energy which can rise above duality, because it's the philosophical understanding, the insight into pattern, that nothing is separate from one another, that it's polarities game. It is a very Sagittarian, very philosophical energy as such. So this definitely helps also to balance this very empathic moon energy here, which is just now, as they both finish their stations. Now we're moving on towards the occultations, which I mentioned. Now I have kind of here really lined the charts up for you, so you see the sequence, and it's that interwovenness of solar flares and astrological events which were really falling so densely that this also explains why we had these huge spikes of solar flares in such a short time. So much happened in these few days. Again, just pointing out here again that big air trine, again the same energy. It all makes sense, it all comes together. Anyway, so let's quickly go back to this chart here. So all of that happened here on May the 2nd, anywhere between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. And you see then shortly after we had that first X flare. The one which was just coming shortly after Mars had entered Aries was still in the M class, M 9.5, which was just about yes, close to, but not quite yet. And it is through the X events, when it crosses this line of intensity, are really a whole new category to themselves. Again, there was this amazing pairing of great important events astrologically and flares, and this keeping going on. This keeps going on. So short after Pluto and Charon changed direction towards the internal levels at that X 1.3 event. No, this was a 1.7 actually. Yeah, that was, yeah, here it is. Okay. And here you see why I was so much saying my understanding seems to make sense. I get pretty much the okay from the sun. Yes, you're right. This is the degree which is empowered. 015 Pisces. 015 Pisces. When we look at the space-time midpoint of the two stations. Again, I just skip through here a little bit fast because there's so many charts I have here lined up. So now this is the next one, and this is really, I mean, yeah, they all are important, each in its own right, and it is actually showing the multidimensionality of what is going on in this great transformation, which we are in the middle of it, as I keep repeating myself. It might not appear that way to everyone, but this is enormous, this is big, and this will eventually, sooner or later, and probably sooner than later, really also ripple out into the manifest world. We will see events occurring which are probably really big. I won't be specific. I mean, it can be all kinds of big stuff, but also internally we have those same experiences, huge breakthroughs, new understandings, insights. And Neptune is in the last degree of the zodiac. How about that? Has just entered it for good, will be in there for months on end before actually turning backwards once more at 29:55. You won't believe that. It's just very shy from entering Aries this year. So this is really that gestation of a new era which we are seeing. And this last degree, again, this is out of the Sabian symbols by the Rudyard's interpretation. So that last degree of the zodiac, it's astrological mandala. Its Sabian symbol is a majestic rock formation resembling a face, is idealized by a boy who takes it as his ideal of greatness, and as he grows up begins to look like it. Beautiful scene, beautiful image, beautiful energy it holds. That what we admire, what we adhere to, what we visualize and see as a possibility is what we become. This is the seed where everything is contained in. Makes so much sense for that last degree of the zodiac. This is the energy we are more and more bringing forth over the next few months, totally in line with that Scorpio, with that Pluto station. And I really should give it at least a few words. This is a super powerful chart, that mid-time, that time-space midpoint. Scorpio rising, this in itself, in Scorpio, as you know, is Pluto's sign. So Pluto is fully favored here in this chart. The moon in Pisces in another water sign. this is the depth of resonance, which is Pisces moon is extremely empathic, as I said before. It is really connected to its environment on a much more deep level than one can see. And then the sun at here perfectly at the 7th house, coming out of that conjunction with TX 300, which is giving it even more gravity shape. It's like giving the sun a big a big vehicle, at least. Could be an airplane carrier somewhere in that dimension, something really huge, a big vessel to navigate on, to express itself through. So in itself, this sun energy is super magnified naturally. It's one of the explanation one could have for all the big solar flares, that TX300 has just been charging up the sun from our perspective, and it's always boils down to that simple thing. It's all about perception, our perspective. And in that sense also each individual point in existence, perception. And because of that, no two perceptions are exactly alike. There's no such thing as truth. Truth is individual. It's my perception, is my truth. It might be in line, synchronized with something more objective, or it might be purely subjective. That is another question, and there's probably a balance of those two in any case. Yes, I mean this chart is so beautiful. I could really go on for hours. Mars here at the 5th house cusp. Anyway, but I want to move on, so you really see the charts before midnight is arriving. Okay, this was then the big flare, just confirming, stabilizing the energy which was laid in place. Then, okay, this is Neptune's activation of the 30th degree. As I said, again, Mars here very prominent. And you see the moon is now encroaching on the 3 planets, coming to make the occultations over the coming days. That was on the 3rd, on Friday. And now we have the first occultation. This is again just the center point of it. The moon hiding Saturn. The moon kind of being then also the agent. The Saturn is having is manifesting itself through its kind of, the moon becomes a transformer station, tuning the higher frequency of these 3 outer planets down to a very biological level, literally imprinting it on the water. That's what the moon is deeply connected with, the water cycle, naturally with the ocean tides being very obvious. Ways this shows itself. Anyway, and the moon was conjunct Saturn here at the peak of the occultation. You see the galactic center is at the ascendant. I mean, it's always amazing to see how things fall, and this has been the rule. As an astrologer, I could say pretty much every chart I'm showing you here is a quadruple 7 or a quadruple 3, something in that range, something really rare and extraordinary in that sense in itself, each of these moments. Now the Saturn occultation, what would that be? That is definitely bringing in the big guy. Saturn is the one which reigns structural forms and material manifestations in their most dense form. This is, Saturn is connected to mountains and rock, crystal in its most refined form. So this is a crystallization of sorts which is happening here. The energies are really deeply anchoring, and they are, and the main character which is expressing itself through in this anchoring of this Saturnian energy is the galactic center, which is all about the greater picture of the universe and the opening our doors to the full panorama whenever the galactic center plays in. This is blowing the limits, opening to dimensions yet unknown. Pluto in perfect T-square here to the anchor point deep in Earth and the anchor point up high in sky of that moment. If we look at it from a spinning wheel, kind of, that's the center axis, then Pluto as it is at its most left extreme, so to say. It's a great centrifugal force these 2 points hold. That's a general thing again about every chart, your personal chart. You can look at it that way. So these 2 points, rectangular, making the cross to your midheaven, midnight axis, are the most dynamic points in a chart in that sense. Anyway, let's rush through here. This was the next big flare that just occurred. You see here we have the Saturn occultation at 11:12 p.m. and then the early next morning we have another big flare. And then the next one follows just within an hour or so, is Neptune's occultation now. Okay, that's what it is. Okay. No, that is, yeah, that's, it is very shortly after. You see, it's a bit hard to see here. I have the heliocentric chart. It shows the moon's position, but not so obviously. Let me show you again. Here is 29 naturally with Neptune, and here it is at 21 here. This is just a kind of a, naturally this is not heliocentric, the moon's position. It's always geocentric. This is just as an additional kind of marker in the four-dimensional space, you could say, where the different dimensions are overlapping, overlaying of each other. So there's definitely a reference there between geocentric and heliocentric positions. When they are in the same place, they resonate regardless. That's why the moon is in here too, just as a reference point. So anyway, okay, Neptune occultation. And again, I want to bring you back to the Pluto Charon station, the Davison combine. Davison combine means it's This method was first developed and used by English-born astrologer Ronald or Raoul Davison. So that's why this technique still holds his name, which is making lots of sense. Time-space midpoint is the true neutral center point between any two events in this universe. That is where the two spheres meet, where that only one single point actually where two spheres meet, you could say, is this moment. 1226 is the ascendant here, and as we see when Neptune had its occultation 1223. So this is how these two planets work together. Now the Neptune occultation is something which is hard to describe what energy that really brings in. I think it is the sensitivity which is now super activated, and the sensitivity is towards transformational themes, as it's totally in synchronicity with this Pluto Charon station about internal evolution. Yes, it's beautiful in that last degree which we just were reading about, that powerful ideal we are holding. And if we have that heart's desire of that little boy seeing that beautiful face in the contours of the big rock formation, we will become it. It is here. Here it says it. It's pretty clear. Again, the resonance is unbelievable. Then here we go. Just short after now. You see 7:09 p.m. and 11:48 p.m. Here comes the next big spike of energy being thrown at us. X-ray energy at the highest frequency. What it usually does, it fries the upper regions of our solar system, of our sun, of our atmosphere. I cannot talk and do something at the same time. I think I have still a picture open here. Maybe I closed it. Yes, here it is. No. This is the big flare. This is what I wanted to show you quickly. I haven't seen it yet. So that's what Earth's upper atmosphere looks like if we translate it into color at the moment of that interaction with the X-ray pulse. All that area in red is pretty much turned into plasma. No radio waves can pass through it anymore. And in that sense, it's kind of melting that whole energy into a one field. That's what plasma is. It connects over the borders. There's an immediacy of it creates oneness in a way. That is one of its special things the plasma holds. Okay, again, 13th degree of Scorpio, and actually I haven't looked that 13th degree up, but I quickly want now as I'm talking here. As an inventor performs a laboratory experiment. Ability to relate seemingly unrelated facts. That's a very nice one for to contemplate on. Because that's what really integration means, to understand the interrelation of so-called unrelated facts, that everything is really, in the end, we have to rise above polarity. I guess it's really one of the big lessons also Pluto and Charon tell us. We have to find that golden means, the midpoint. That's a solution, that's a perfect balance. That's the eye in the hurricane. There's perfect silence. So the hurricane might be going on like crazy all around you. If you're in that perfect center of yourself, you will feel with it, you will know what's going on, but you will not be pulled into it, affected by it. You can literally ground the energy and help the entire structure to evolve in the most beneficial direction, I would say. That's what the power of being in that center point really means. Okay, so this is the 9.0 flare, and then we go into the next spike here. No, now first comes the Mars occultation. Okay, you see it's intense, super intense, and again the early degree, second degree this time of Pisces here highlighted. And then we have the 8.4 flare, Ceres here again highlighted. And then, well, this chart is a little bit of future music. It's still 8 days away, I guess. By the way, I mentioned that in my last recording, we see the Fibonacci numbers this year very strong. So this is the 5th month in an 8 year, which are both Fibonacci numbers. If you add them up, you get the 13. That's the frequency of this month. The 13th of May, it will be when Sun and Uranus meet, which is a critical moment. This is short after new moon. Actually, the 8th of May already will be a super important day in that sequence, which is new moon coming up. But there were 2 more flares just lately, and I haven't really looked at these charts yet. I just want to show them to you. These are the last 2 spikes. Okay, so we have... Okay, you see there were 2 X 1.3 flares. Again, 1.3, how about? So you can't make that thing up. You see, I show you here again the 5 spikes. That's this one. Okay. So, let me see, say it right. Okay, I guess this is not the right picture, the one I wanted to show you really. Yeah, I guess I still have it here. Yeah. Anyway, believe me, there's actually here you see it clearly. Here is that is actually the picture I should show you, which I had in mind when I was wanting to talk about this. This is the list of the last 20 flares, and then here you have the X13 at 601 on the 5th of May, and then the last one was this one, another X 1.3 at 11:54. So they might kind of make the frame here of this group of 5. And So this was the one in the morning, and then this is the 7.5 exactly at 10 a.m. Yeah, just browsing through fast now. One thing I might want to point out is the direction of these flares. We're all in the region of Scorpio and Sagittarius as this one sunspot, which is really all the source, as you see, it's the one source of all these flares. It's pretty much 3663, which in itself is interesting as being a mirror number, linking it with Pluto energy. 99. So this beautiful structure here, which again is on for a few days, here augmented by the ascendant. These are 72-degree angles, the ascendant to Uranus, to Saturn, to Mercury, which really highlights again Mercury and Mars here, Mercury and Saturn, sorry, which is focused attention and very dedicated to creation. The 72-degree angles are all about the integration of male and female, 2 and 3, the dynamics. 5 is a very changeable number, changeable energy, I would say. Middle of the marketplace, lots of great ideas, very inventive. And again, this is the frequency of all these days, pretty much that first 8-10 days of May. And this was the very final flare in this, again, exactly in the midheaven of the 0 meridian. I mean, you can't make this thing up. This is really a clear sign that things are moving in a big way. Keep in mind that up to May 10th, the North Node is still in hexagram 51. The cutoff line will be 15:07 and 30 seconds. 51 is shock and thunder. This has been on since February or so. We have had many of those. I guess we're in the final days. We will find out how many shocks and thunderstorms we still have to face in order to get to a clearer place. Hexagram 21, where it's getting into, is definitely not less intense in its own way. It is hexagram 21 biting through, where the lunar nodes, the main evolutionary direction, will be until, I guess, till July or so. 21 biting through is all about resolution. Resolute is the word, the adjective which comes with it, which shows that inner strength of knowing what one wants and of being laser sharp in its approach. That is the word which stands behind the word resolution. Biting through, the I Ching symbol is literally showing itself like teeth grinding through hard meat, as it says. Anyway, this is where we are going. Up to the 10th, still shock thunder as a main theme. After that, resolutions are starting to show up. I'm leaving it at this. Thank you again for joining, listening, and sharing all these wonderful news with me. That energy, spreading it all out over the whole globe, in that knowing that whatever is passing through you and being quantum entangled with your energy will be available everywhere on the planet within days or weeks at the most. So we constantly intermingle, and in the same way we are picking up on the frequencies, energies, quantum particles of all the other 7.9999 billion people on this planet. It's a constant adjustment, rearrangement of energies, and the planets show us things go in a quite remarkable, great arrangement we can hardly dream of as being humanly possible. But again, if we hold the frequency and hold the vision, it will all come real. Thank you so much for being here. Talk to you soon.